So Glamour put out this article, Women of the Year awards shit, and they're talking to this chick, what's her name? That was an acolyte, Jody Smith. Jody had some interesting things to say, for lack of a better term. When Jody met the acolyte co-star Amandla Stenberg, who does double duty as the lead, playing both Nicia's twin daughters, Amandla gave an essay she penned on her approach to the character, their motivations, their inner lives. It was a gift. I've never worked with anybody who's handed me an essay on their character. The Virgo in me, oh, of course. The Virgo in me was just like, yes, I'm living for this, she says, before revealing why that joy was short lived. She put so much care and thought into that, and it's disappointing to feel like your studio is not having your back in a very public facing way. She adds, alluding to how she felt Disney didn't support Amandla at the time. Okay, so let's just talk about that real quick, okay? So that part right there, they're of course referring to, I guess they didn't think, and we've seen this happen before, where they believe that the studio, when the stars are doing, sometimes they say goofy stuff, everybody knows that sort of infamous interview with her and the other chick, the director, what's her name? Leslie Headland, or whatever her name is. But I also can understand because I believe Disney put them up to it. And maybe that's not an accurate term. Maybe they didn't put them up to it, but they were at least in on it because you know how this stuff works, especially with Hollywood. You got your list of do's and you got your list of don'ts. So if you are leading with this is the gayest that Star Wars has ever been, and so's queer, or whatever you're talking about in your interviews, I believe that Disney either approved of it or they put them up to it. Don't know. Encouraged, maybe is the proper term. I don't know. But what I will say is, what more can you want? I mean, you got paid a lot of money. Now, I'd assume, look, I don't know your contracts. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you got paid a decent amount to be a part of this acolyte, though it was maybe didn't see as much success as what you were hoping. The show was unceremoniously canceled, allegedly due to low ratings. That's not alleged, Glamour magazine. That's what happened. All the signalers on Twitter and the accounts, I almost said fake accounts because maybe some of them are engagement for, maybe it's Jim for marketing on a sock. I don't know. That said, you didn't show up. And that's been my argument to anybody that says anything about any piece of media, that it's like, well, people ragging on it or people not liking it. There's only one way that those guys become null and void. We've dealt with it with the Riververse. Riververse, as an example, has some folks that aren't very fond of it. Doesn't matter. The results speak for themselves. Okay. So once you made over $10 million in a short period of time, like we have, right? We're in a collection, not a campaign, a collection that's over $500,000 right now. Okay. It's active right now. All right. So if you look at it from that perspective, it doesn't matter what people are saying about it. It doesn't matter any of that. The problem with Acolyte is that the people didn't show up. That's your problem. Is that there's a whole lot of yin yang, yip yapping, and chatting all over the internet about, well, this is brave and this is bold, and you like Amandla, you like the Acolyte, you like it for what it added to the Star Wars universe. Okay, great. Show up. That's all you had to do. And what Neurotic or what Az or what Geeks and Gamers or what Even Theory, who's a lot more tame, none of what they had to say about it would ultimately matter if the results speak for themselves, but there are no results. And that's your problem. So, yes, it got canceled. They would have been a plumb damn fool, too. It would have been unsurprising, but I would say they would have been fools if they did renew it for another season. But in the weeks leading up to the season finale, the cast faced relentless torrent of, here we go, racist abuse online from so-called fans who couldn't handle a black actor. you're not the first black person or person that had black, let's say, a little bit more melanin in her skin. You're not the first one to appear in Star Wars, by the way. Just throwing that out there. In a video posted to her Instagram story, Amandla addresses the cancellation, noting that since the show was announced in 2020, she and the cast have experienced a rampage of hyper conservative. It's like deja vu. Every show this happens. Every single thing that happens that is apparently negative is to be. It's like a made up. It's a figment of their fucking imagination of a person that they have that is leading the charge on anything that is happening here. And it's the racist, conservative bigot. Because all the buzz terms are here. Look at that. Rampage. I mean, we covered that video. Hyper conservative, bigotry, vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language. I mean, you checked all the boxes there, man. Look, congratulations. It's an infuriating cycle. Actors of color are cast in Star Wars projects and are immediately made vulnerable to vicious bigotry. John Boyega, in particular, has been outspoken about his experience with racism while part of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Coming from who? The Chinese? Or your own company, perhaps, John? They've got to stop doing this thing where they don't say anything when people are getting fucking dogpiled on the internet with racism and bullshit. Jody says of Disney's lack of response to the Acolyte's reception. It's just not fair to not say anything. It's really unfair. And this is what I think they're feeling. And I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not going to pretend like I have all the proof in the world this is what's happening. But this is what I believe is what's taking place. And Disney's kind of doing themselves in. What I think is happening right here is that Disney and all their marketing teams are in on all this social justice bullshit, right? And this is what we're going to lead with. We're going to focus on you. Hell, we brought you in for check all these boxes, all right, whatever. And I think what they're under I guess they're under the impression that if they, and I'm talking about the actors or actresses, are antagonistic towards actual Star Wars fans. We're not talking about normies, actual Star Wars fans that take exception to this. They expect that Disney and Star Wars, maybe Lucasfilm, is going to come out and join in on the antagonizing. And so, of course, I refute, and I would love to see the receipts on what they're talking about with this racism and bullshit, because I'm willing to bet when what they're referring to is you, probably not necessarily this actress, but as the company or whatever focusing on this racial bullshit, right? And it's taking people out of these stories. Not saying you're focusing on that within the story. No, what I'm specifically referencing is that if you on the campaign trail for this entire show are leading with sexuality and race bullshit, okay? And then someone's like, I'm bored to death of it. I'm willing to bet that's what you refer to as racism. It's not a meaningful term. I don't think that there's a significant amount of people, and I'm willing to bet that the creators or the commentators that are speaking on these subjects, I'm willing to bet that the ones that they are referring to as racist are not flat out actual racist. I'm willing to bet it. But they would consider Nerdrotic and all these others that just call this shit for what it is, willing to bet you're referring to them as racist. And they are upset that probably in the roundtable discussions, this is why I said Disney probably did themselves in, probably in the roundtable discussions, they were talking about all this. Hey man, we're going to focus on all this other stuff, and now they're looking like, where are you at? Please come help us. We were supposed to be antagonistic towards the fans. We were supposed to lead with all this other stuff that nobody cares about, because you're not. Look, I would encourage anybody to go watch all those old videos of the movie theaters, right? Back in the 80s and even late 70s, I believe some of that stuff is out there, right? Of Star Wars, right? And you will see people of all different backgrounds so stoked on Star Wars. I know that for whatever reason, you have both folks in my generation and millennials and Gen Zers, for whatever reason, think that they are splitting the fucking atom and they are solving racism. Guys, you guys are behind. People got over that racism hump long before you fucking did. People were into Star Wars that were not white folk before I was born, before Amandla was born. She's younger than I am. They already got over this shit. I mean, everybody was just mourning the death of a guy that played a pretty instrumental part in Star Wars, I would say. What are you talking about? Everybody already was over this, but because you guys need it's like, for whatever reason, it's like my generation and after. So everybody younger, right, did not get their civil rights era, okay? So they believe that they have to create it, even if it's out of thin air, because everybody wants to be a fucking activist. And this is why I've always said, in today's term, like as far as what they consider activism, it's the occupation of fucking losers. There's a bunch of people that ain't got shit to do, but they want to be part of something meaningful. And if you just attach yourself to some fake ass movement, you don't really got to do shit but exist. This is why marching and all that stuff, it's not like marching of old. You're not fucking a bunch of Martin Luther Kings because you guys went and because George Floyd got off by a cop or whatever happened out of that situation. You're not doing shit by taking it to the streets. But it makes you feel like, hey, this is my moment. I am part of this big movement fits in the era of racism. We already got over this shit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to head over to Rippaverse.com to check out our comic book company. We have books, plenty of merchandise, and even some glorious animations from Rippaverse Studios.